All right. Hello, everyone. We're here this morning to talk about some hot topics. I'm here with Brian Stevens from the National Real Estate Post, and I am Michelle Lambridge. First, I think we want to kick it off by just talking about the economy and how we are still under pressure.
Yeah. Great tune by collaboration with David Bowie and Queen. I think it was back like in 1984. Stolen by who? Who stole it?
Oh,
Come
I don't
on.
know. Oh gosh, we should have
Was that
practiced
Vanilla?
this.
That was Vanilla Ice.
Oh yeah. Oh
Vanilla
my
Ice
gosh.
stole it under
Too
pressure.
early.
Yeah, here's kind of the thing. When people, everyone's gonna find this a recurring theme in real estate and lending. It's going to saturate and permeate everything we do. It's going to come home with you when you yell at your kids for some stupid little indiscretion that you would have let slide a couple of days ago. It's going to be with your spouse getting irritated with you for something that you did, or you getting irritated at them. You're going to take it out on your coworkers, your underwriters. It's people are under pressure. They're under pressure. They're feeling the squeeze of the economy right now, I think. I certainly know that we're feeling this in the mortgage and real estate community right now. We're going to talk about some of the numbers that real estate agents have done, but it goes something like this. The Fed said that we were going to have a soft landing about 6 months ago. Oh yeah, everything looks pretty good. We're going to have a soft landing because we have taken a really, frankly, we underestimated and undercalculated the complications with counterfeiting $7 trillion and just giving it away to people for no good reason. Like all that crap we did during COVID when we were printing trillions of dollars. It's like the difference between like a billion seconds is 22 years. A trillion seconds is 22,000 years. That's the difference between a billion and a trillion. It's a lot. And when we print up a core 25% of the entire world's money, we counterfeit it, that's going to have deep ramifications. And we're starting to feel it right now. And I talk about back in 1981, we had a Fed chief, his name was Volcker. We had out of control inflation at that time as well. Property values were as expensive as they are right now. They were unaffordable. Inflation was bad. And Volcker came out and said, oh, yeah, you guys are going to keep spending money like you're a bunch of drunk sailors. Great. We're going to raise the prime Fed fund rate by 5%. What? 5%? Yeah. And if you guys don't change your spending habits, we're going to do it again. And then we just kept spending like nothing was going on. Volcker said, I told you so. There's another 5%. Slam. 10% up. over the course of a 4-month period. And then we lost our shit. We freaked out. We said, oh my God, this guy's crazy. I better start saving some of my money because he'll do it again. And he said, you bet I'll do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And the fear of what the Fed was going to do was enough to get us to change our spending habits. We weren't spending as much. Then we had a surplus of goods. The cost of those goods came down, and we kept inflation under wraps for 45 years. So now, see, we're a nicer, softer version of ourselves where everybody gets like a participation trophy. We're all, oh, don't you worry, your feelings matter. So we can't do what Volcker did back in 1981. So we say, well, we're going to raise by a quarter. We're going to raise by a quarter of 1%, a quarter of 1%. We've done this 11 times. And we said, oh, we're going to have a soft landing. Soft is so much nicer. All these things just make me feel really good about Brian. You know, my feelings matter. Well, the thing is it ain't working. It's not working because we're still spending. It's still rampant. It's still out of control. And now the feds are starting to grip, saying, oh my God, we should have done it exactly like Volcker did. We were just trying to take a page out of his book and give it a 2022 spin. Ain't working, that dog don't hunt. So now what's happening is the Fed comes out and says, we're raising rates again. Oh, by the way, inflation is nowhere near it needs to be. Oh, by the way, property values, which is going, I mean, we're 25% of the country's GDP. And a year, we covered this on our show, but if we look at our home values from May of 2021 to 2022, nationally, we went up almost 18%. And just an out of control, skyrocketing, unsustainable number. That means affordability for the masses, all of us plebeians, becomes something but a distant memory. So the Fed raises rates, lowers their balance sheet, and we said, okay, we need everything to go down. Well, it doesn't go down. Property values continue to go up. From May of 2022 to 23, we still saw 2.8%, a 2.8% increase. That's not that much. We went from 18 to 3%. Yeah, we went from 18 to 3%, but you see, we're still putting money in the pot. We put that 3% on top of that 18%. The numbers right now, again, are unsustainable, and a lot of things need to happen, not the least of which is we have to quit spending money, and property values don't need to slow their ascent. They need to regress. They need to turn around. I'm looking at some numbers right now that are pretty interesting when it looks at the rent versus own. Right now, the cost of owning has shot through the roof. The cost of renting has actually started to drop back down, and we know rents are even out of control. How can this be? Because we have so many artificial influences on our economy right now trying to fix this thing that all we're doing is just adding more chefs to the kitchen type of thing. And everybody's approach to this is just making a bigger mess of the economy. And I think people are starting to kind of lose it. And they're starting to freak out, and we're starting to feel it. For a real estate agent or a loan officer out there, what they're starting to say is, oh my God, the underwriting at my mortgage company now is tightening up. Mortgage credit availability is starting to shrink right now. Rates are going up. The Fed, the St. Louis Fed, your Fed, just put out a working white paper that's talking about fraud in mortgages. Mm-hmm. They're starting to create a narrative for the next policy change that's going to be in front of them. And it's all fear-based. So we're seeing this right now, and we're kind of feeling this in the industry. And what it really amounts to, Michelle, is we've got harder days in front of us. We don't have easier days in front of us until we start building more homes, until we start to, frankly, get inflation under control. We're going to stay this course probably, I would say, for the next 6-12 months. Here's the thing, I wanted to point this out, is with the Fed's policies right now, they need property values to drop. They said we're going to continue on this course until inflation gets down to 2%. Okay. Mm-hmm. 2% is not coming around according to the Fed's projection until 2026. Michelle, I'm staying this course until I get to a 2. Michelle, I'm not going to get to a 2 until 2026. What do you take from that? I guess we're going to do more of this for the next couple of years.
Right.
Certainly, things are going to change. There will be black swans that come into our market right now that fundamentally and drastically change the course of where we're going. What we've had in the past that we don't have now is we can't predict it. We don't have any regular, reliable indicators that would tell us when this change is going to occur. And we're finally coming to that realization.
Right. I mean, it would be nice to see some more new construction popping up. It just feels like around here, the new construction that we see, it seems like it's taking much longer to get to completion. New construction contracts, when they come in, the dates keep getting pushed back. So do you think that's going to be corrected by just more contractors coming in, or more, it's still a supply issue?
It's not a supply issue. It's a cartel issue. The National Association of Home Builders and the new home builders run their portion of the housing industry like a drug cartel. like OPEC. What do? We control supply and demand. We collaborate and we collaborate with each other to keep prices artificially higher than they need to be. That's what's taking place. If you think I'm wrong, the Minneapolis Federal Reserve did a paper on this and said the reason why we have out of control housing prices right now and a lack of inventory is not because of supply. It is because home builders, the new home builders through their association, is collaborating to not build as many homes to keep property values high. Now, think about this. There's a lot of collateral damage. If they go out there, we are 6 million units short of being even remotely close to what would be a healthy housing market. So in addition to what they're doing, just build 6 more million homes right now. Like tomorrow, 6 million homes, they magically appear. So if that takes place, what happens to existing home values? Well, congratulations. Everybody just took a 20% haircut on their equity, and that's going to piss people off. So we can't do that. I would propose that you have had a 200% increase in your equity over the past 7 years, and dropping back 20% so everyone else can participate in home ownership is a small price to pay. And I'm telling you, it's going to happen. We can't not allow people to have a piece of the pie. And that's where we're at right now. The median sales price on a house and the median income for anybody in any market anywhere is now less affordable than it's ever been. You cannot be a public servant in any community out here in Northern California, where I live, or St. Louis, Missouri, where you live, or anywhere in between. You can't be a cop, a teacher, a firefighter, a garbage person, and live in the community that you service. You can't do it because affordability has just skyrocketed and gone out of control. It has to pull back. And it's either going to come through policy changes, which again isn't terribly expedient, but that's what's going to be required to get groups like the National Association of Home Builders and new home builders to start to do what they should have done a decade ago. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why, if we go back to 2008, 2007 and 2008, they were projecting that the housing market was going to continue going gangbusters. And we saw what happened with new home builders there. It literally, when the 228s and 327s, and now they're saying even investor loans started to fall apart and the house of cards came down, all of our housing starts stopped. All of our housing permits stopped. Like, you would see just miles and miles of graded earth with roads put in and sidewalks put in, and they never started the foundations. And and a lot of new home builders had to sell off those lots because it just killed them. It devastated them. Because by the time they say, I'm going to build here, and when they actually break ground, it's going to take 3 to 5 years. So any new subdivision is always 6 years out. So all these new home builders are projecting. It almost bankrupted every new home builder back in 2008. So now they're more hesitant to go out there and make assertive, aggressive predictions that are 5 and 7 years ahead, for fear that they're going to run into the same thing that they did before. The problem is being conservative with their projections is turning into what it really amounts to, a national crisis with a lack of inventory in homes.
And who knows what to price a house for whenever it's going to be built in 6 to 7 years, because where will home values be?
Right.
All right. Did you want to talk about the real estate agents and the percentages of who sold what in over the last year?
Yeah, they're bad. They're we've always known these numbers. We've always known these numbers. 80% of the realtors do 20% of the realtors do 80% of the business.
Right.
Same thing in lending. Lending doesn't seem to be as really kind of swayed as much as real estate is, but it's always the same thing. A small portion of loan officers and real estate agents are going to do the vast majority of business. You have the numbers in front of you. I probably do, but you can probably.
I do.
What are they?
So the top 1.5 of real estate agents in 2022 sold 68% of homes, and the top 10% of agents sold 90%.
And I think it was the top 2% sold 75% of homes. So the top 2% of real estate agents did 75% of the business. Have fun with those table scraps, you other 98%. It's brutal. And the reason why I shot that show is because these type of markets where people are gripping and people are stressing and everything appears it's going to get tighter is going to exacerbate that. It's going to make it even worse. It's not going to get better. We said, 30,000 agents are leaving a day or leaving every month. You could put a 0 behind that and nobody would notice. You could. 300,000 real estate agents could leave the market tomorrow and nobody would know. It would have absolutely no material effect on our industry whatsoever. If we had double that, if we had 600,000 real estate agents who quit tomorrow, the quality of the real estate experience would go up. That's the only thing that would happen. If 600,000 agents got out of this business, people would look at real estate in our profession in a better light than they do today. They would, because we know who would leave: the people who aren't good at what they do. The bar to entry is way too low. So, but and you brought up the great point, and I totally agree with it. Well, we have teams now more than we ever had. So it's not really 1.5% doing nearly 70% of all transactions, because they're running everything under a team. You're right. But isn't that still a consolidation of power of the very few controlling the many?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because now if you're underneath, if you have a team lead, you not only have a broker, you not only have a sales manager, but now you have a team lead. So how much independence do you have as your average real estate agent? And the answer is less than you did yesterday.
Yeah, definitely seeing some changes there. So next topic,
Yeah,
my favorite one
I
for the
already know.
day.
I can see you smiling right now. I
My
get to see, like, you
favorite.
start to glow more. All right, what did you see the Barbie movie?
I haven't yet. Actually, I wasn't planning on seeing it, but my
Uh,
neighbors talked me into it. They said, we already got your ticket, just make it happen. So that's happening tomorrow evening. They even brought over some pink clothes because I don't have any. So that's going to be interesting. But so Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and the Barbie movie, what's it doing to the economy?
Too much estrogen. Too much estrogen. Said no rational mind ever. Did you know that during the 2008 housing crisis, when we basically bankrupted every bank in the country and even took down global economies, it was like there was one bank in Iceland that was impervious to all this shit that happened, that took down like Goldman Sachs and took down Lehman and took down Merrill Lynch and took everyone down. There's a bank in like Iceland. It was either Greenland or Iceland. I think it was Iceland, that did great through this whole thing. And they're like, okay, because everybody was buying mortgage-backed securities from the United States, bundlized securitized mortgage-backed securities. I'm kind of proud to say that I had my hand in bringing the country of Switzerland or Sweden down to its knees, almost collapsing it. I feel proud of that. So anyways, this one bank, there was only one variable that made that bank different than every other bank in the world. You want to know what it was?
What was it?
It was run by women. Its entire board was women. Seriously, it was the only bank whose board was all women, and it was the only bank in the country that didn't almost collapse due to the 2007, 8, 9 housing crisis. And ain't that a trip?
That is.
So yes, anyways, I've got 2 daughters. I'm married, so I've always been controlled by women. But yeah, it's now more prevalent than ever. They're taking over everything. 10.1 million single women-owned houses, 8.1 million guys own houses. So you own more houses than us. You're getting paid more on jobs right now than we are. There's actually more of you than there are of us in this world, women over men. And now at least men kind of had a stranglehold on popular music. That is no longer the case. No longer the case. I'm so irrelevant. This crap just, I didn't even see it coming. But it was the country of Sweden. Their central bank came out and said Beyonce single-handedly moved their GDP needle. Single-handedly. She didn't even have to play there. She announced that she was going to play there, and overnight every hotel was booked out. The cost of food, the cost of services, the cost of goods, they all went through the roof, because the states and all through Europe were collapsing in on Sweden. It moved the needle on the country's gross domestic product. It's the same thing with Taylor Swift. It's unbelievable. So she just played her second to the last show here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. The numbers were staggering. I think up in Seattle they recorded a 2.6 earthquake from the sound of the noise and kids jumping up and down. This is Beatlemania on steroids. And so what are we finding? We're finding that inflation numbers and GDP numbers for every localized area is being affected. And I think, was it the St. Louis Fed or the Philly Fed who came out and said that the Taylor Swift concert is moving the GDP in different areas where they're hopscotching to and from. Now, I'll say this, I don't know anything about her music, but she writes her own music, and for that I think is cool, because like all of this other just consumable garbage drives me nuts, but she writes her own music and I respect that. And the other thing is, I don't know if you heard this about Taylor Swift. I can't name any of her songs, but it's hard to ignore. She bonused everybody on her crew $55 million. The roadies, the ticket takers, the turnstile workers, everybody. She bonused out $55 million. And I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty damn cool.
It's pretty awesome. Definitely sets her apart from others, who are on tour, but maybe Beyonce will take a note from it and do it too.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
mean, it's pretty remarkable. And boy, I'll tell you what, it really kind of, it's. Do you remember, Michelle? Like I don't know, was it 3 years ago now? I remember laying in my bed on a Thursday at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, going, "What in the hell has happened to the world?" When we all had to stay home from the whole COVID thing.
Yeah,
We are a far cry from COVID right now, aren't we? I mean,
we are.
it's like these Beatlemania on steroids.
Yeah, we're all packed back into
I think these
the
guys.
venues. That's for sure. I mean, I'm glad that concerts are back. We're all able to, do this crazy stuff again. And,
Oh yeah, I got Queens of the Stone Age coming up here. That's going to be super fun. The Cat Empire is playing out here. If you've never heard of the Cat Empire, go play them. They're awesome. They're an Australian band. They're rad. So I love music being back as well. I think it's
yes,
wonderful.
yes. And then, I mean, the Barbie movie, those tickets, it seems like just sell out immediately. I think the tickets that my neighbor got, were like right in the first or second row. So we're gonna, those are the worst, but that's the only way we could get them. So yeah, way more popular than I thought that movie would be, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, you got to go see come on, what is of much more international and historical relevance? Barbie or the creation of the nuclear bomb? Turns out it's Barbie.
Yep. Turns out. So the last topic that I have for today is the Fresh Start Credit Program. If you want to talk about kind of the details of that, just how it's helping increase credit scores for those with student loan debt, how it's kind of wiping some slates a little bit cleaner, and what that might do with the.
We've had a long, since the 2008 meltdown, we've had a long, rich history of. Here's the thing: we have to find a way to get people into houses who shouldn't have homes. That's just the truth. That's what we have to do. Every time we have one of these policies, the foreclosures just go through the roof. It's going to happen again. But we do have a societal and an industry mandate to serve underserved communities. And underserved communities takes on a lot of different looks. Okay. It runs down socioeconomic lines. It's just a whole bunch of different looks that it happens. But whenever we do, it always leads to higher defaults. Why is that? So now what we used to do is we said, hey, we'll give people to credit. We'll extend credit to people with lower credit scores. But now we can't do that anymore because that's bad, because that's your subprime. So again, but that's being a little bit more honest. All right, I'm acknowledging you have shittier credit, but I'm still going to give you a loan. There's honesty in that. But we can't do that anymore because we can't tell people they have bad credit when they don't pay their bills. So what we do is we say, oh, we're just going to give you better credit scores than what you had. You don't have to change anything that you're doing. We will just find a way to give you better credit scores. And somehow that makes them a better credit-worthy risk, right?
Right.
Okay. So we've done it this time around with student loans. All right, you don't have to pay your student loans. We defer student loans. All right, well, that's great. And by the way, deferments on our mortgages, they're coming home to roost right now, as we knew they would. That'll be on the show, the National Real Estate Post, in a couple of days. But now, so with credit, so student loans, we wanted to forgive a bunch of student loans, which, if you think about it, that is when you forgive a ton of student loan debt, you are forgiving debt to the upper third income earners in the country. We're not helping underserved communities. You're helping very well-served communities by doing that. Kids who are going to some of these top 4-year schools are not underprivileged, underserved, they're overserved, but we're going to forget that whole point. That got shot down by Congress. So now you have to pay your student loan debts. That forbearance period has come up, but we just found out, hey, listen, we're going to give you another year where you don't need to make your payments and nothing is going to show up on your credit report and nothing bad is going to happen to you and you're not going to be sent to collections. So really what they're saying is, even though Congress said we can't do it, we're still going to do it. You don't have to pay your student loan payments. In other words, if you have high cost or high risk debt, high cost debt, really, if you have high cost debt that you want to get rid of, don't pay your student loans. Pay your other bills off first, because the only thing that will accrue is the interest, that low interest on your student loans, which I swear, I'll bet you donuts to dollars in 1 year from today, mark my words, that'll get forgiven too. But yeah, it's just another case of making people look more credit worthy than they are. And from a lender's perspective, here's the thing. If I am risk adverse to buybacks. I'm doing a whole show for later on today on the scratch and dent market and why underwriting is coming from a place of fear today. They don't want buybacks. They don't want foreclosures. So if I'm a lender right now and I say, oh yeah, I see your credit scores are pretty good, but I see that you haven't made your student loan payments in a year. It's being reported you haven't paid them. It's not late. It's not affecting your credit scores, but I see it as a lender. I can't put it into your ratios because whatever. But what I can do is I can put it into your ability to repay. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm assuming in a year, you're going to have to pay that interest. I'm going to factor that into your ratios. Your ratios are going to turn that approved loan into a denial, even though it's still approvable by every single standard. But I, as a lender, just found an out from that loan. I'm going to let my competition go and write and fund that loan because you're not making your house payments. You're not paying your bills on time. And I know historically speaking that people who don't do that have a higher probability of foreclosing, and I want nothing to do with it. So listen, if you know anyone who has student loan debt and they say, hey, I don't need to pay my student loan debt right now, this is not as free of a lunch as you think it is. Tell people to make their their student loan payments. One, because it can come back to haunt them. And two, do it because you signed a piece of paper on obligatory note that says you were going to do it and follow through because that's your word if you can do it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I mean, and some of these Fresh Start programs are causing an increase in score of 50 points on average. That's enough to make it a loan approvable, you know, in some of these cases. But I see what you mean. And FHA says calculated on 0.5% their student loan debt. So we're not having to average in very much on these monthly payments, but once they come into repayment, it could make them no longer, you know, qualify if they were in repayment at the time of us closing the loan. So
the irony is we're trying so desperately to find a way to get these people qualified to buy a house. The irony is they can't afford to buy a house. So we're arguing about an approval that frankly is going to go nowhere until affordability starts to come back.
Right. And when will that be?
I think it was Laurel and Hardy. I think Laurel told Hardy, this is one fine mess you've gotten me into. And that's kind of how housing is right now.
And that's how we'll wrap it up. Loan officers,
realtors, arms up. Fight back. Fight back.
Right? Happy Monday.
It's all good stuff.
Okay. Well, everybody check Brian out on the National Real Estate Post. There's a mobile app you can download on the App Store and also the website. So you can find out, go into more detail on these topics that we covered and then some. You got more good stuff coming out today.
Right on. It's always nice to see you. Don't be a stranger.
Good to see you. All right. Talk to you soon.
Later, Skater.
Bye.